So hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein. It's found in red blood cells and it's responsible for carrying oxygen. So if you look at the structure on the right, you see that the hemoglobin is made of 4 subunits. Specifically, this is the adult hemoglobin with 2 alpha and 2 beta chains. And each of these subunits can bind oxygen. Now, this hemoglobin can exist in 2 forms. The deoxygenated form, where it's not binding oxygen at all, has low affinity to oxygen. However, the oxygenated form has a high affinity for oxygen. The more oxygen it has, the higher affinity. And that's something we call positive cooperativity. And it's illustrated in this curve right here, as you can see. It's a sigmoidal shaped curve where you see it's flatter when there's low levels of oxygen. That means it doesn't have this great binding capacity. But as you get more and more oxygen, you see that there's a steeper slope for the saturation, which means that there's a higher affinity for oxygen. Okay, so that was adult hemoglobin. Now if you look at fetal hemoglobin, this one is made up of 2 alpha and 2 gamma subunits. So the difference here is the gamma instead of the beta. Now this one, the difference is that it has a higher affinity for oxygen than adult hemoglobin. So why would you want this? Why would you want a higher affinity for the fetal hemoglobin compared to adult hemoglobin? This is because you want to facilitate oxygen going from the placenta, from the mother, to the fetus, which is the fetal hemoglobin. So if you want oxygen to go from mother to fetal hemoglobin, then you want the fetal hemoglobin to have a higher affinity for oxygen. Now, a similar protein is called myoglobin. This one, instead of hemoglobin, is made up of a single polypeptide chain. Okay? And this protein is usually found in muscles. It stores oxygen in muscles. So it only has a single polypeptide chain. And because of that, it does not have positive cooperativity. Because when positive cooperativity arises when you bind an oxygen, then you get further affinity for oxygen. But if you only have one chain, you can only bind one oxygen and you're done. So you can't have that further higher affinity the more you bind, because you can only bind one. However, the difference here is it does actually have a higher affinity for oxygen in general compared to hemoglobin. And the reason for this is that myoglobin does not bind to 2,3-BPG very well. And 2,3-BPG, we're going to see this a few more times, so I'm going to explain this. 2,3-BPG plays a big role in helping hemoglobin release oxygen. So, if you have 2,3-BPG, you have decreased oxygen affinity. Okay. Myoglobin does not do this, so it binds to oxygen pretty strongly. Okay. Okay, now, let's look at shifts in oxygen affinity. A right shift indicates a decreased oxygen affinity, and that means a better unloading of oxygen to tissue. So we're going to look at this picture on the right. I'm going to take a second. So this black one's normal. Let's say for a percent saturation here, 60%. If you shift our graph right, that means to achieve this level of 60% oxygen saturation, you need a much higher level of oxygen in the blood, much higher oxygen partial pressure. As you can see here, you need a partial pressure of 40 compared to about 25 to reach a 60% saturation in hemoglobin. Because there's decreased affinity, it doesn't bind as well, so you need more oxygen in the blood to get the 60% saturation in hemoglobin. Now, I also want to point out a couple other things. Note where we're operating on the curve. The partial pressure of oxygen in oxygenated blood leaving the lungs is here. It's very high, very high. And then the partial pressure of oxygen in deoxygenated blood returning from tissue, so after the tissue is taking up all the oxygen, is up here. Okay. Now, what will cause this right shift? What will cause this decreased affinity? Well, it's going to be states where you want more oxygen in the tissue. It's states where the tissue don't have enough oxygen. So, increased CO2 output, okay? That's because you're metabolizing, you're using a lot of oxygen, you're generating a lot of CO2, you want more oxygen to fuel that. Lower pH, again, or maybe you don't have enough oxygen, you're using anaerobic glycolysis, you're increasing lactic acid, you're getting lower pH. And then finally, the higher temperature, your muscles are working, or you're metabolizing, you're creating extra temperature. All of those tell you need more oxygen, so you're going to shift the curve to the right to increased unloading of hemoglobin to the tissues, okay? So that should all make sense to you. Now, the left shift is the opposite. It's pretty much super easy. It's the opposite. So if you already know this, just know the opposite. That's a left shift. But basically, when it shifts left, that means you have increased oxygen affinity. so hemoglobin binds well and does not unload oxygen very well to tissue. Okay, and the opposite causes will cause a left shift. Okay, now I want to talk about oxygen content of blood and how do we calculate that. This is the equation right here. Basically, this equation tells you that the key determinant of oxygen content in blood is hemoglobin. Okay, most of the oxygen in blood is carried in the form of oxygen. Is bound to oxygen. The amount of oxygen in blood that is dissolved only makes up a very small portion. This is the portion. This is the dissolved oxygen. Makes up this tiny portion of the total oxygen in blood. So here, this thing times the partial pressure oxygen is the amount that is actually dissolved in blood. Okay, see that the majority will be based on how much oxygen is bound to the hemoglobin. You calculate that by 1.34 times the concentration of hemoglobin times how saturated the hemoglobin is with oxygen. Okay. Now, we can look at changes to hemoglobin. How can hemoglobin change? So, first of all, there's methemoglobin. This is an oxidized form of hemoglobin where the protein has an iron, and it's normally Fe2+, but if it's oxidized, it's going to be Fe3+. For oxidizing is losing electrons, so you increase your charge, so you're Fe3+. Now this methemoglobin with the oxidized iron has lower oxygen affinity. Okay, lower oxygen affinity does not bind to oxygen as well. Causes of this change in hemoglobin can include nitrates and benzocaine use, especially nitrates. Nitrates are the most common. So symptoms here, if you have lower oxygen affinity, you're not carrying around as much oxygen, cyanosis, and chocolate-colored blood. Because you don't have enough oxygen, so it makes your skin look a little blue and your blood looks like that. Okay, you need that more of that oxygen to get that bright red-looking blood. Okay. Now, the way you treat this is methylene blue and vitamin C, and methylene blue is easy to remember because it's methemoglobin. So treat methemoglobin with methylene blue. Next is carboxyhemoglobin. This is a form of hemoglobin when it's bound to carbon monoxide instead of oxygen. So carbon monoxide competes with oxygen for binding spots, and it binds 200 times better than oxygen. Okay. So it competes with oxygen. It binds to hemoglobin and takes up all the spots that oxygen would normally take up. The other thing it does is actually when it binds to the hemoglobin, it decreases the release of oxygen that the hemoglobin has already bound. So you have decreased oxygen unloading to the tissue. Okay, so 2 ways to cause decreased oxygen getting to tissue. And the way you can get this is, well, carbon monoxide is produced by a couple of things. Produced by fires, car exhaust, and gas heaters. So you've probably heard about people dying from carbon monoxide poisoning from sitting in their car with the exhaust or with running some gas heater without ventilation. And that's what happens. They get decreased oxygen to the tissue because there's competing of oxygen and there's decreased of oxygen unloading. So the symptoms here are going to be just symptoms of not getting enough oxygen to your brain, so headache, dizziness. You're going to get cherry red skin. That's a nice identifying feature for you. Cherry red skin and carboxyhemoglobin. The way you treat this is, so you have stuff competing with oxygen, so you need to outcompete that carbon monoxide. You give them 100% O2. So normally when you're breathing O2, it's like air is 20% O2. You're going to give them pure oxygen. It's going to help you compete with these carbon monoxides, displace it. And once that carbon monoxide is displaced, you've actually just solved 2 birds with 1 stone. You have better saturation of your hemoglobin, and you have normal release of oxygen now, because now you have removed the carboxyhemoglobins. Finally, we have cyanide poisoning. This is not a problem with hemoglobin, but I'm talking about it here because it's similar. It's just a similar type of poisoning that leads to respiratory problems and then can eventually lead to death. So what happens in cyanide poisoning is actually cyanide will block the electron transport chain by inhibiting complex 4. So this is a complicated picture. Don't need to memorize it. This is biochemistry stuff that you might have to memorize in that section. But just the point is that you're blocking the electron transport chain. You have decreased oxidative phosphorylation and ATP production, so you're going to switch over to anaerobic respiration. And when you have anaerobic respiration, you're going to get lactic acid production. So this is what this picture is. This is anaerobic respiration leading to lactic acid production. So cyanide you usually get from fire. And the reason why you get it from fire is because you get burning of plastics and rubbers that often contain cyanide. So the burning releases all that cyanide in the air, you inspire it, you get blockage of the electron transport chain. Symptoms here. Bitter almond breath is a key characteristic, key word that you can help you tell if a patient has cyanide poisoning. Otherwise, it's just brain not getting enough oxygen, flushing of the skin. You get a lot of other symptoms. It can be rapidly fatal if it's not treated. The way you treat this is coupled with many options you can do. Give them hydroxycobalamin. This one binds the cyanide and helps excrete cyanide, okay? Binds the cyanide, excretes it, hydroxycobalamin. Nitrates. What will nitrates do? Or nitrite. Nitrates will, remember we said, what did we say? It turns hemoglobin, what does it do to hemoglobin? It turns hemoglobin into methemoglobin. And methemoglobin will trap cyanide, okay? Methemoglobin traps cyanide and you can get rid of it. Finally, sodium thiophosphate actually it detoxifies cyanide. So all of these basically help you get rid of cyanide. Hydroxycobalamin, nitrates, and sodium thiophosphate. Okay. Now we're going to talk about different pathologies and how they affect oxygen content. Okay. So remember, oxygen content is based on this equation right here. It's based on hemoglobin concentration, saturation of hemoglobin, and oxygen partial pressure, arterial oxygen tension in the blood, in the arterioles. So in anemia, the problem is we have low hemoglobin. Okay, what is our arterial oxygen tension going to be? It's going to be the same. Your hemoglobin is low, but the amount of oxygen in your blood should still be the same if you have no other problems. What will the saturation of hemoglobin be? Saturation is still the same. Saturation depends on this, okay? And then oxygen content. Well, it's normally saturation depends on that. Oxygen content will be, what's going to happen? It's going to be decreased. Why is it decreased? Because of this. It's going to decrease hemoglobin. You see hemoglobin in this equation on the bottom. So now polycythemia is the opposite. Increased hemoglobin concentration. So normal, same as before. Oxygen content will increase because now we have more hemoglobin carrying oxygen. Methemoglobin, what happens to the arterial oxygen tension? Again, that's going to stay the same. What's going to happen to your oxygen saturation? This one, what was the problem in methemoglobin? Remember, you get oxidation of the iron leading to decreased iron affinity. Decreased oxygen affinity. So if you have decreased oxygen affinity, what happens to your saturation? Saturation goes down. So if saturation goes down, what happens to your oxygen content? Oxygen content goes down. Happens in carbon monoxide poisoning. What's the PaO2? Well, PaO2 is going to stay the same. There's nothing wrong with your oxygenation of the blood. What happens to your saturation? When saturation goes down because the carbon monoxide is competing for spots. Okay, so if your saturation goes down, then your oxygen content is going to go down. Cyanide poisoning, what's going to happen? Is there going to change any amount of oxygen in the blood? No. Are you going to change the amount of oxygen bound to the blood? No. Remember, the problem here is not a hemoglobin problem. What was the problem in cyanide poisoning? Remember, we said the problem was in the electron transport chain, okay? And the oxygen content's the same. You're not being able to utilize the oxygen because of the problem in the oxygen transport chain, leading you to go to anaerobic respiration. Finally, high altitude, what happens to the oxygen, PaO2? So in this case, PaO2 goes down because you have less oxygen going through the lungs into your blood. So PaO2 goes down. If PaO2 goes down, what happens to the oxygen saturation hemoglobin? You're going to get decreased saturation, okay? So your oxygen content is going to go down. So that's it for our hemoglobin lecture.